Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, April 11th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area, and we'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here at May corn up 2.5 at 485.5. May soybeans were also up 2.5 at 1031.5. And May Chicago wheat up 12 at 550. Currently, the Dow's down 190. S&Ps are off 2.5. This morning, we had an export sales announcement. 121,000 metric tons of soybeans to unknown destinations. The breakdown was 55,000 for 24 and 66,000 for 25. So real small totals there. I guess what we know this morning overnight, China announced an increase in their retaliatory tariff of 125%. So it's now 145 for the U.S., 125 for China in the race to see who can tariff each other higher. This weekend, we've got real big nuclear talks scheduled to take place on Saturday with Iran. So outside markets and certainly for Sunday night, we'll be keeping a close eye on any news or rhetoric that comes from those talks. They're pretty important as it pertains to our relations, and everybody's going to keep a close eye there. Also, yesterday, we got the USDA report. Let's say, a little bit of a surprise on the ending stocks for old crop corn, falling below the estimate. So maybe, Justin, a few thoughts there. We'll wrap up this crazy week and, throw it around the room.
Yeah, Dan. I'd say it was, as far as old crop corn, I guess a surprise versus the average estimate, but not versus like what's actually been happening. So
Yeah.
We've been way ahead on sales for a long time. So USDA kind of recognizing that. Corn's been, has been acting good for a while, as we talked about, even with obviously all the outside stuff going on. So it's trading at almost 2-month highs. Nearby corn, you got December corn even, got all the acres, all those kind of fears out of the way, and it's back up to its 50-day moving average this morning. So yeah, corn, you look at some of these commodities, we talked about this, you had this, big sell-off, risk-off, it's still happening, but liquidated a bunch of open interest, a bunch of longs and from the hedge funds, and corn's been really resilient. Things like soybean oil, which I've talked about a lot too. I think they've found value areas where they try to push below there, and there's too many factors at this date to push them much lower, in my opinion. So we're starting to see some of those kind of positive things. Not that we can't have breaks, not that things can't change, but you start to see where they're reluctant to get below kind of the recent lows. Things like gold, right, had big sell-offs and are making new all-time highs now. So as the dust settles, as things get a little more clear, I know we're still doing tariff races with China. I think the fact that we're not, the other countries have 90 days and we're going to start getting some agreements, I think is positive. Obviously, China is a huge trade partner. There's some real pain that's going to happen with companies if we don't figure some things out. But at this point, a tariff race isn't really in the best interest of China. Just the math of it, right? The more that we raise, the more they raise. It hurts China more. Also hurts a lot of U.S. companies. So again, we have to figure that out. But that being said, as far as like the impact on soybeans, for example, like put it to zero. Like whether it's 50%, 100%, 200%. They've already, they have not very much on the books right now. Obviously, if this drags out for years, it's gonna be a big problem. But other than that, I think I hate kind of same things we've been talking about, really. The dollar, I will say the dollar's making 2-year lows.
Yeah.
Right. So our currencies, come down quite a bit. That's friendly at, you see wheat up, between 8 and 12 cents today, depending on the contract. But, wheat's super sensitive to currency moves, just because of it is a big export market. So, yeah,
I was going to say, Justin, we're grain guys, but we were talking last night. I mean, it's a pretty important close for the Dow. If you look at, just looking at the charts, looking at what you've done this week. Like I said this morning, we tried to trade higher this morning, and now we're down a couple hundred here. But
Well, we were down 600 on the open last night, right? And then traded higher. I mean, it's still volatility. You hope that this week's lows can hold. They don't look great, but we'll see. We'll see. There obviously I think a lot of retail panic selling. We got into margin calls, all those kind of things. When you break that much that fast, no matter what market is, you're going to create a lot of pain. And then when you have these sharp rallies, right, you got people that are like, thank goodness, thank God I can get out, right? So I don't expect it to just go right back up by any means, unless there's some crazy deals. Grains, on the other hand, like they've been kind of the whipping post for a while, right? And it's kind of the opposite, right? They've already sold off. They did all these things before this stuff, and then they got the extra push lower with the equities and with all the tariff news. So to be making kind of 2-month highs after all that's been thrown at it, I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you got new crop corn's flirting with 460 again, and I know that's not like balloons and celebrate, but it's like holy smokes! I mean, that's
a big number. Yeah, that's 460 is a big number for new crop corn. You start getting above there. I mean, really 480 is kind of the high, if you think about it, that we've really traded. So, and 460 kind of failed multiple times. So if it can push above that, going into planting, going into the weather season, I think that's pretty positive.
I guess. Go ahead.
No, I think that's personally. I think that's all the things we've talked about, right? There's just all these underlying nets, these underlying price areas below the lows that we've seen, where it's a really big mistake to be selling below those levels. And I think the market naturally figures that out. So pretty soon the farmer, whoever sold it because they're scared, whoever sold it because they have to, I think that's already happened, right? Like you're in the ninth inning of, troubled loans, getting loans or not getting loans, or, farmland getting let go that has to, right? You're in that last inning of all those things. And then we're going to go to planting, and farmers are going to just focus on that for a while, right? Like, okay, like whatever pain we had to do, whatever moves we had to do, we did. Not going to look at it again for a couple months. And I think I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, Jason and I were talking last night at dinner, and it was like Northern Illinois is going to start kind of nosing around this weekend. You got looks like we're warming up for 12 to 15 days, and guys are ready to go. Let's get
after it. I mean, just from what we've seen, right? Like all those moves, crop insurance, farm bill, like that's done. And I'm going to go back to what I love, farming, and worry about the other stuff later. Right or wrong, that's what's going to happen.
I'm good with it. I think I'm good with
it. And I think that's the right move in this environment right now. So, yeah, and with open interest coming down, all these things we said, you've got a pretty clean balance sheet. So I think you got to be really open-minded to what can happen here. I mean, think about all the negotiations going on. Like, I don't know how you can go in very confidently saying this is what's going to happen this year. I just, you look at the price level, you're at a kind of below break even, you're relatively cheap. We've seen like when we go much lower, what happens? We do a bunch of business, kind of relatively tight oil crop for corn. Beans aren't burdensome by any means, and I think you guys see what happens here.
I mean, if you go back like 3 weeks, Justin, and somebody would have said that we're at 145% tariff on China, and you got better than $10 no beans, and corn's is close to 460, I think you'd have been like, you're out of your mind.
I the only thing I would say is, for people that are comparing what happened the first time and this time, we were doing so much more bean business back then to China.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact that China has made us the destination of last resort for years now, they kind of lost that. If they think they're going to hurt the U.S. farmer, like, I just think they don't have the same the same chips that they did last time.
Right.
As far as that, right? Because they could cancel millions and millions and millions of tons. They haven't been buying anything, especially corn. They have Mexico's been the big buyer, right? We're current export forecast number from USDA on yesterday's report, second largest of all time, right? The first largest was 2020 when China loaded up on U.S. corn, right? If you guys remember, that's where they bought millions and millions of tons.
Phase one, right? Phase one, yeah.
Well, even before that, I mean, yeah, I guess it could have been part of phase one. They actually needed it to.
Yeah.
But they loaded up, deratio happened, all those things, but massive, and everybody kind of poo-pooed it. But we're second, this year, second behind that. And it's almost nothing to do with China, right? And it's always been like, we need China. Mexico's been, huge buyer. Their production's 11, 12%. Their domestic corn production last year, they were horrible drought. I actually went down there for spring break. There's dead trees everywhere. I mean, that's how bad their drought was. It looks like if you would go to Southwest Florida and look at the dead trees from the hurricanes, right? That's what their trees look like just from a drought. So yeah, they needed it, right? So they bought a ton of corn. So yeah, China just doesn't have that, they can't go cancel millions of tons of products. Like not that we don't need them long term. It'd be nice to figure out a deal, obviously.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, they don't have that over us right now, as far as we're concerned in our little part of the world on grains.
I just feel like we've got them. Like it just the negotiations. I just know what I mean.
Well, yeah, I don't know. The problem is, we have an administration that lasts 4 years. Mm-hmm. They have a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And
long game.
We probably care about our people more than they might about theirs. I mean,
Yeah.
So we have a lot of real businesses. We have the real economy. It is real pain for real American businesses. And so it's hard to win. You hope that, who knows what the end, I mean, that's the part of the problem, right? Like, what is the actual goal? And I get why the Trump administration can't really broadcast what your goal is. But that's what is on the minds of a lot of really good companies in the U.S. right now. So that's obviously the tricky part. Yeah, stay tuned. That's the really tricky part, and it's real money, right? So the good news is it's just starting. I shouldn't say good news, but it's not like these tariffs and all these things are just starting. So it's not like there's not real losses yet, right? It's just the fear of you forecast out how much you could lose and what's the confidence of not laying off people. All those types of things are real discussions that are happening right now. So.
All right. Well, we made it, guys. We did it. Brian, give us something to smile about as we head home for the weekend.
Yeah, right? Oh, man, what a week again. Well, with the Masters in full swing, I thought let's do a Friday fun fact on a golf movie classic that'll be celebrating 45 years since it came out in 1980. Caddyshack. Yes. So the gopher actually was not in the original script, but it was added during production to kind of tie the whole movie together. Chevy Chase later joked it was actually the star of the movie. Speaking of the gopher, when Bill Murray, Carl Speckler, tries to blow up the gopher, if I kill all the golfers, they'll put me up in jail. Murray almost got really injured. A prop explosion blew off way closer than expected. He later quipped, "I almost died for a puppet." Speaking of the explosion, it wasn't special effects. They actually detonated actual explosives at Rolling Hills Country Club in Florida. So big, residents thought a plane had crashed into the golf course. I mean, the set was just complete chaos. There were so many drugs being taken on that set that Judge Smells, Ted Knight, was so upset. I mean, so his upset was that perfect character that he was actually in that kind of state of mind with everything that was going on. And then, I'll leave you guys off with the Bill Murray. Everything that Bill Murray said in this movie was all improvised. So I'll leave you off with the Cinderella story in my best Carl Spackler imitation. What an incredible Cinderella story. This unknown comes out of nowhere to lead the pack at Augusta. He's at the final hole. He's about 455 yards away. He's going to hit a 2-iron, I think. Boy, he got all of that. He's got about 350 yards left. He's going to hit about a 5-iron, I expect. The crowd has gone definitely silent. The Cinderella story out of nowhere. A former greenskeeper now about to become the Masters champion. It looks like a miraculous. Oh, it's in the hole. It's in the hole. But, it was so improvised. When you think about it, his first shot he uses a 2-iron. It only goes 105 yards. His second shot with a 5-iron flies only 155 yards. His third shot, he holds it from 195 yards with an 8-iron. So, what a classic! I thought that would kind of give a little levity to the week here for you guys.
It's the best weekend of the year.
It is. Happy Masters weekend, everybody.
Yes.
Masters weekend. Thanks, Bry. That's awesome. Very good. We'll get a quick rundown of the markets before we wrap here. May corn up 4 3/4 now, 487 3/4. May soybeans are up 3 3/4, 1032 3/4, and Chicago wheat's catching a bid up 16 1/4, 554. Stock market's down 270 there. Appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like. Certainly subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything to do so. It'll keep you up to speed on everything that's going on with AgYield. So again, thanks to everybody that supports the show. We're doing this live every day that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, 8:15 Central Time. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and we look forward to talking to you again on Monday.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.